All right, everybody, welcome to episode 30 of Fehr The Burn.
A better way to say that I'm on the way in my own lane. With all the ways it takes to stay awake in this game, it's so lame. And I'm drunk, I run, I try to find cover, but there's no love. Who's gonna put the Lincoln Logs back into the place? I said,
We made it, man. We're fucking here. We were doing some sound testing before this. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how this is gonna go.
Fucking good. You have to believe.
That's
You gotta believe.
It's
if
gonna
you
go.
believe, you will achieve.
Thank you, Tony Robbins. David Robbins out here.
Tony hungry.
David's a here. He's a here. He's a here guy. You know, you're a here guy. You're a guy that's here.
I
You're
don't
a
even
here
know
guy.
what the fuck that means.
I don't know, man.
I don't know Tony
I smoked a
Robbins
cigarette before this. I might be too rich, from that.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, man, we've been fucking testing this shit. I will say to everybody in this room, all three of us, just be wary of the mic cord. It seems like that is what is causing like a rattling. So if you can just try to keep the mic in a similar spot, but we have handheld mics, so who the fuck knows? It's episode 30, man. I never thought I would be here on a podcast that I started with a person who may or may not be on this episode, and be at 30 episodes, man. You know what I mean? Like I was telling you before, like I feel like every fucking podcast like that doesn't get traction dies around episode 20.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're here,
It's because people want to be famous.
people want to be fucking famous.
Yeah.
And you know what? The person who I started this podcast with, who may or may not be on this episode, we started this for a purpose, man, you know? And like we started it to talk about Christ, corruption, and culture, and I feel like so far we've really been doing a good job of that. We also started it to talk about demographics, and I feel like this is a good point real quick where I like to bring up the demographics sometimes of the podcast. We have about 58% people listening on Apple Podcasts, or I think it's actually on Spotify. Oh no, it's on iPhones. 58% is like on iPhones. Good.
Yeah, good.
That's
Absolutely.
good.
Superior.
Let's kick that up.
Yeah.
We actually started getting some Mac listenership, like straight off of people's fucking Mac laptops. Kick that shit. Keep going with that. Apple all the way, baby. As far as like technology, I don't own one. This is being recorded on a Samsung, but I'm poor. I'm poor, man. This is capitalism, America. Go get you that iPhone. Listen to Fehr The Burn on your iPhone and on Spotify. We have like 60% Spotify listenership. Fuck yeah, dude. You want to know why? Because Joe Rogan can say the N-word.
Well,
You know what? And they didn't cancel him. They didn't cancel him yet.
the date is March 27th. They have not canceled Joe Rogan.
At this point. No, I don't know how that's going to affect our black viewership, but you guys should still stay around because we're not going to say the N-word. You know what I mean?
I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Getting a little bit too racy off rip. Yeah, man, and we have like 82% male listenership. Again, pretty pissed off about that. We need 100% male listenership. We need to get all of the chicks and like the fucking NBs and if anything that you're not, and we're gonna talk about that today. I don't want women like in general. Like just give me dudes. Give me dudes listening to this shit. Dave opened his play this last weekend. How's that going?
It's good.
How's the performing in the bar?
It is a very intimate experience because as an actor, I'm in your lap pretty much.
You're in their lap.
In their lap.
Like Santa.
Yeah, like
It's
Santa.
Christmas every
but
day.
with my long sword.
Oh, you're long.
My long sword.
You know, his long sword. Wink, wink.
No, it's great. Yeah,
You glad you did it?
absolutely.
It's good.
It's nice to perform again. It's weird, but I do enjoy it. So
To feel that rush
yeah,
and to like really step into somebody
yeah,
else's shoes.
because it's like I mean, performing or being an entertainer is kind of just jerking yourself off, but like it is a nice way to get that serotonin rush that's not drugs.
yeah, right. But it like gives you the same shit where like immediately after you're done, you're like, oh, now I'm back to be
Yeah, like I
sad
drive home and I
normal.
just turn on James Blake and I'm like, no, I'm sad inside. I am crashing and must sleep.
fuck going out. I'd rather stay home. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This episode sponsored by Liquid Death.
You drink it and you die because it tastes terrible.
Kill
It's
your
bad.
hunger. They let us say the N-word.
No,
That's an ad right
I
there.
don't think.
All right, man. It's episode 30. I think it's time for us to bring on our guest. We talked about all the important shit on this episode, and so now we're just going to dick off for about an hour.
Enjoy.
This man is the person I started this fucking podcast with, man. If you listen to this podcast at all, you know him probably better than you know me, man. And you definitely liked him more than you like me. And now that I'm the main host, you're like, bring this motherfucker back. So we did.
Yeah.
We brought him back.
Yep.
Cougar Coburn, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Cougar. Yes, Cougar. Yes. He's here. The man, the yin, the yang.
Hello, boys. Hello.
The yin
It's
to
good
my
to be
yang.
here. It's good to be here. Thank you
Cougar.
for having me, Chan. Thank you for having me.
How you been, bro?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good.
How's life treating you?
It's good. My business is coming along a little bit. I'm just spending a little time with my family on spring break and stuff, and
Hell yeah.
now back to it, back to the old grind.
You were out in Narco?
Yep, and back and down in Tooele and stuff, Utah.
Tooele.
You were in
Yeah,
Tooele.
Shit, who'd you got in Tooele? That's
I-
where my
my
dad and my
grandparents.
brother live.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
my grandparents live there.
That's fucking tight.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I also know
Small
some people
world.
from Tooele.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. That's not a very big town, right?
It's grown pretty good. It used to
Yeah.
not be, but it's grown pretty good.
It's kind of like a Salt Lake, like suburb kind of deal because it's
Yeah.
like 30 minutes from Salt Lake.
Yep.
So it's probably
Yep.
a bit cheaper than Salt Lake, but it's growing, so it's probably very.
It's starting to
expensive
go
now.
up for sure. Yeah.
Don't you like?
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Don't you spell it like Thule?
Yep.
Yeah. Tooele.
Yelly, yeah.
So it's like
It's
got
like
that.
Tooele.
It's got that Mormon spelling too. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well,
Where
there's-
like
There's also an army base out there. That's why my dad initially worked there because he worked for the Air Force, and so he like worked on the base. That's
Oh,
in
yeah, yeah.
Tooele, yeah. It's like a munitions depot and shit. And they'll take all their old expired ammunition and take it out to the salt flats and just blow it all up.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Because they can't just have it around, so they like make a show out of it. Like people get to bring their families and they stand like clear the fuck back and just watch explosions like it's fireworks.
crazy.
It's the most America thing ever. I fucking love it.
that's some fucking small town American shit right there, dude. Like if you did
yeah.
that in a big city, if they start getting too many people, they're gonna be like, all right, guys,
Yeah.
fucking what? What is this?
20,000 people watching bombs go off. I'm like, whoa!
They have the sirens too that they test every once in a while. I think it's like
Yeah.
once a week where they run the
Yeah.
the military just in
The
case
fucking
like
the
anything
air raid
goes off.
sirens
Yeah.
and shit.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Dude, we were
That's
in
crazy.
Ocean Shores in October. Me, Dave, and Justin. Shout out Jay, we love you. And remember when we all of a sudden that fucking siren just starts like going off in the middle
Yeah.
of the day?
Yeah.
Like a siren starts going off and like a dude started like talking over it and we were like, what
Oh,
the
God.
fuck?
Yeah, and we're like literally like the ocean is like 10 yards fucking away from us. So we're like, do we need to leave? Like,
Like waves were coming in, bro. We were like, is this a flood warning?
It was kind
Like,
of stormy too outside. We're like,
we found out it's just like a test they do every year.
Oh,
that they're
damn.
like, yeah, we did the test and we were like, well, we're
They
we're
were
out here
scary,
as
yeah.
tourists, dude.
yeah.
So
Well, I mean, they did it. We were there in October, so there was like hardly anybody else there.
So that was
it
probably like
makes
a good
sense.
time
Yeah,
logically to
yeah,
do
'cause
it.
There's
Yeah.
no people except for us stupid stoners that are like, it's cheap to go in October.
excuse me, us stupid rich people.
We were in Washington.
We were incredibly CEO wealthy.
Yeah, that's true.
That whole time.
Yeah.
And straight up drunk. And I don't have to fucking pussy around that shit. We were hammered, dude, for like 2 to 3 days. We would wake up in the morning and Justin would just be like, all right, boys, let's do this liquid IV. And fucking just down liquid IV, dude. And just be like, time for shots. Here we go.
Ugh.
Crazy.
Fucking take some Vyvanse and get
So fuck. Yeah, we took Vyvanse. You know what this shit is?
I've never heard of that.
It's like Adderall, but it's less intense because it's like longer to release. So it's like a longer form, but more mild effects.
oh,
I don't know if you've ever taken Adderall, but
I've tried Adderall before.
I've never felt better in my life.
really.
I've never felt more.
and that's why we don't do those
Present.
drugs
Yeah,
very
that's
often.
funny.
That's
Yeah,
that.
That
yeah,
drug
you
fucked
see that
me up.
fucking guy
Say
over
that,
there?
That
Yeah.
drug fucked me up.
That's a man that wants to get addicted to those
Yeah,
drugs.
yeah.
I want me some Vyvanse, baby, and I got no reason for it. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Yeah, man. Crazy shit going on in the world. before we get into like any of the shit that's happening, like I do just want to thank you, you know, for starting this shit with me. And
Well, episode 30, man.
Episode 30,
That's
man.
pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
You
You know what's crazy? We started this about a year ago.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
first episode dropped on the 11th of April.
Wow. Yeah. So we're coming right up on it.
Right up
Yep.
on the year. I was hoping to
That's
get you on
awesome.
like the 1 year episode, but I was like, fuck it. Like we have the stuff that we want to talk about today. That's hot right now.
Yeah, that's
so.
good. Yeah. Heck yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm just glad that I got to have you around here during that time, just because I think it's just such a wild ride. And like I even told you, like Fehr The Burn, like Numpty Boys to me was like, or just college, like shit like that was just like time periods.
Mhm.
And I feel like this podcast is like an era for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, even if I pass it back to you at some point, like that era still goes on.
Right.
And
Yep.
like we still have this body of work that we've collected that
Yeah. It's pretty dope.
it's pretty dope.
It's cool. It's
We were
cool.
saying a lot of shit like way back in the day that like some people might be like, oh, maybe they were onto some shit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like all those COVID facts and whatnot that I'm sure in a couple of years or people are gonna be
But
like,
we'll see a little bit. Yeah.
we'll fucking see, man. We
Yep.
took a lot of risks.
Yeah. And that's we need to do stuff like that, and this is going to kind of lead us at some point to that. But like just the ability to have conversations is really important, and that's what we've been just trying to hound on. Is just like even if two people disagree, there still needs to be a conversation because like people need to get to the bottom of things. And
Straight up.
I've just witnessed a lot that a lot of people are not willing to have these conversations, you know, and that's cool. That's cool, but there's just consequences to that. So it's cool that this form of work is still going, you know,
Yeah.
and the values that, you know, the CCC is still going, you know, like that's awesome.
That's
man.
CQ'd, baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
And the crazy thing is too is like, you know, I think a lot of that. You like my nails real quick? I got these painted.
Yeah,
fucking
the gold, dude.
It's such a shitty job, man. The lady, like the day that I came home, I'm like, how are my nails already chipped, bitch? Like you're supposed to be good at this fucking
He
job.
didn't even wear socks.
I didn't even wear socks. I just had flip flops on. I was like, how? And they're already
I'm
chipped.
sorry.
It's been 4 hours. It's been 4 hours. Yin yang. It's
Yeah,
been 4
like, come on.
hours. She's very Asian, the lady who was doing my nails.
Oh, is that what you got?
Yeah.
Jesus
Also because
Christ.
I saw Cougar's hat. And I was
Does
like,
it
oh,
have
yin
yin
yang.
on it? Oh, gotcha. Okay. I was like, where the fuck?
But you know, like but the thing that I liked about us starting it too was like we talked about this very early on. Like we come from like low key like pretty different backgrounds,
Yeah.
and have very different like identities and like shit that we're involved with and stuff like that. And like we have like mad disagreements off camera and off the pod
Yeah.
all the time.
Yep.
Like
Yeah, we do,
do you remember
bro.
the time that we just sat and like just argued about like drag queens for literally
Yeah,
like
yep.
2 hours just
Yep.
in your fucking kitchen?
yeah, dude.
And I was just like, why are we not potting about this? But I was like, it's all right because this is real fucking life. Like
Yeah.
we have to like get to the bottom of like whatever the fuck we're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so I just love it because I think that it grew out of an organic place of like us being friends coming from different places, me seeing your content, being super like interested in your content early on and being like, I think that I can add something to this. So I just love where we came from and hope to that as long as I'm kind of the main host of this, that I can continue to push that forward.
Yeah, man. I
So-
think you're doing that. I think we're doing it. You got the setup is coming along around here and everything. Like it's dope.
We'll be
you know?
moving in a few months again, getting a new setup and shit.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bro.
So there's a future. There's a future going on here. So,
There's always a future.
yeah. Hell
There's
yeah.
always a future. And we have to feed the future now. And we have to talk about the things that are going to be in the future now, because that is what's going to help us with the shit we have to do in the future.
So we give our money to China so that they can get us all into the metaverse faster, so that we can leave and shuffle off this mortal coil hellhole that is reality as we know it.
Exactly.
There it is. There it is.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
just everyone is different genders. Everyone is whatever X-Men you want to
no,
be.
gender doesn't exist
X-Men.
at that point because your avatar can be like a giant
robot.
purple fucking like fluffy piece of whipped cream. Yeah, like it doesn't. I don't think
Yeah.
that.
It could be some shit we don't even know now. It could be some other weird ass creation that's just going to be in the metaverse. And they're like, well, I'm a necrobot. And you're like, what the?
That sounds pretty cool though. I might want to be a necrobot.
Like
I
to-
don't know what that is, but that sounds dope.
like to be a robot that fucks dead people?
yeah.
Yeah.
Why does it matter to me? I'm a robot. I don't have the same morals as you. Fuck all the dead people.
Fair
You
enough.
dicks. What are you gonna do?
Fair enough. You don't have a moral compass. You're a robot.
I'm a
so,
robot.
Yeah. Fuck all the dead people.
I'm a
you
horny robot. I'm fuck everything.
want. Speaking of I guess, pronouns or genders, or no one will have genders. People being necrobots. Yeah, man, some big shit with like trans athletes in the last week. About a week, yeah?
There has been.
Yeah.
There has been.
I think Lia Thomas, I think it was a week ago. Was it longer than that, or was it about a week
I
ago?
think it's been like a few weeks since at least I saw anything about it. But
Really? Okay. So, like,
Maybe
yeah,
2 weeks.
Lia Thomas, Penn State swimmer, I want to say. I don't even know what college she's from, but she won the NCAA national championship in, like, the 500-meter freestyle. She is a transgender woman. I will say at the beginning of this, we are 3 different people with 3 different perspectives on life and what that means. And so I would encourage everyone to be, like, as respectful and considerate as possible. But if someone says it's something that you don't feel, that you don't like, and that offends you, I don't care. That's what it is. We're here to have open conversation, and people are allowed to believe different things. If you think something is transphobic, go ahead and say it, but give that person an ability to like respond and tell you why they possibly aren't. Don't just shut them out. That's all I'll say about that, just to like caveat this at the beginning.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man, Lia won. She's fucking 6'4". She won by a 1.75 in the race. Cougar works in swimming. Do you know?
I don't know anything about like top tier swimming,
Okay.
but there were 3 races, right?
Yeah, there were 3 races. She competed in 3 races, and she got like 6th in one of them. I think she got like anywhere between like 8th and 5th in the other one. And then the last one, that was like the long distance one, she won by a margin of 1.75 seconds. Again, I'm not sure how like good that is or bad that is.
Yeah, I have no concept.
But yeah, she fucking won that event. And there's just a lot of controversy about it, man. There's a lot of controversy about whether transgender athletes should be able to compete in the sport that they identify with. Now, off rip, do either of you have thoughts about that overarching statement?
yeah, I guess my thing would be, I think it's more complex than just being like yes or no, because either way you say yes or no, somebody's gonna like be like, well, so I think it like there's more to it than just being like yes or no. So as of now, I'd say I don't really know. I have thoughts and opinions both ways, but I'm not convinced either way, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't know. I come from a place of, because just like you're saying, like I don't want to invalidate a human experience in any way. And from what I've witnessed, there are calls from women who feel like their experiences have been invalidated. And I will like to look at those when I'm looking at the evidence of what I need to do to think about this situation. We talked about this a little earlier. Should there be like a separate league? Probably. Can there be a separate league right this second? Probably not. So what do you do? A lot of sports things come down to dividing people into groups, into specific groups due to fairness, pretty much.
Can you give us like an example of that?
Special needs groups, age, men and women. That's why there's a WNBA and an NBA.
Divisions in college sports, possibly.
Yeah, divisions. Yeah,
depending on how
exactly.
good you are.
And so with that given, if there's any unfairness that can be called into play, that should be looked at, I feel like. Because that's what sports pretty much comes down to, is like, well, if someone is doing something that's unfair, that should be called out, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You know, like when the Patriots filmed the Jets practices and stuff. It's like, well, that's probably pretty unfair to do. You probably shouldn't do that. Now, it's not as black and white as that, because there's a human being that you don't want to invalidate at the bottom of this, that you're trying to say, yeah, like I see you and I hear you, but also we need to look at this whole big picture as well. We need to like actually be able to look at this and break it down from both sides. So it's just, I think one of the main questions that one side is calling into is just the fairness of it. If there is any evidence for fairness, that's where the conversation needs to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people who are on that side, they like, when they bring up that fairness, on lower level of sports, like I'm talking like kids, typically from what I've seen, it seems like it's like the puberty thing, and it's the fact that like boys go through puberty and gain like so much more testosterone than girls. So when they're competing in like lower level sports, high school, middle school, things like that, and you have a kid who's naturally born a man, that is identifying as a woman, like runs against all these people, you can end up with some shit like what happened in like New Jersey. There was this athlete named Elena Yearwood, I want to say, who competed in New Jersey and ended up winning like the New Jersey state title for the 100 and the 200 meter race and broke like the record for the women's division by like a good margin and fucking got sued or some shit like that. So it's like when you break down like those like unfairness things, I think a lot of people are going to bring up testosterone levels, muscle mass is something I've seen a lot, structure of one's body, because like men just typically naturally born men are just bigger.
Well, upper body strength as well.
Upper
Just
body
that,
strength.
That's the thing that really separates is like a man's ability to punch and a man's ability to throw. Just due to this, like looking at the science, that's just what it is. You know
Men
what
just
I'm saying?
like men just typically
They just have that.
They
Some
can- they
women
have
can
more
punch
power.
hard as fuck and knock me the fuck out. Like I'm not saying that, you know,
yeah.
but
And there's definitely outliers out there, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
this. Do you know who Amanda Nunez is?
yes.
Yeah, that big bitch would knock any of us motherfuckers out right now. And she's never been a man.
She would have a way with me, bro.
Amanda, please no. Not
Yeah.
even sexually, bro. She'd have her way with you just violently.
like she would fucking punch the shit out of me, or just like pick me up and slam me, and then strangle me, like scary people.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So like I really for a long time was on the side of this debate where it was like transgender athletes should never be allowed to compete with that gender. And this Lia Thomas thing really got me thinking a lot about it, because I was like, man, like I don't fucking know. Like it's weird to me, and like I think that men just typically are gonna have an advantage over women always. But I really started like to do like I just went into Google and just literally typed transgender athletes, and I just typed it in, and I was like, who the fuck is out there, right? Because we heard about Caitlyn Jenner, but Caitlyn Jenner was still running under Bruce like way back in the day.
Yep.
And now I hear about Lia Thomas, and then like the only other one. Do we ever talk about Laurel Hubbard on the podcast? Do you remember if we did or not?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
But like Laurel Hubbard, who's that power lifter from New Zealand,
Yep.
who transitioned, who was an average power lifter, but then once she became a woman, she was able to win the qualifiers to go to Tokyo in 2020, and then in 2020 she failed both of her attempts, so she actually didn't get on the podium. And just from what the small amounts of research I did, I really found that there isn't like a claim, because the biggest thing that I see too is like a lot of people are scared that men are going to mediocre athletes who are men are going to transition to be women just for the advantage. And what I've seen from my research is that that typically really isn't the case. Like even going back to like 1978, there's this old tennis player who like fucking sued the government because she wanted to compete with the women in the US Open, and they were like, no, you're a dude, you can't do that. So she fought for it, and they had her take like the body examination test and shit like that, and a judge actually ruled and was like, yo, that was massive discrimination against you. You're absolutely competing in that tournament. Competed in the tournament and got out in the first round. And then in the doubles, she made it all the way to the finals, but they didn't win. So she kind of still needed that partner to like, in order to like really be successful. She couldn't really do it on her own.
Right.
And I just like have like, so that's in the 70s, and definitely like to me, like transgender athletes are rare. Like it's not a very common thing that you see in upper level sports. I'm just going to say as a generalization, as someone who really enjoys sports, that you don't normally see that shit. With transgender people becoming more prevalent, there is a possibility that down the line that they could just take over women's sports. But from the data that I've seen right now, it really doesn't seem like that. What do you think about that, Dave? I saw you wink right there.
Well, yeah, like I don't know. I feel like it's a hard statement to be like absolutely they'll take over.
I don't think absolutely. I'm saying there could be.
But like yeah, but I mean even that, like it just seems like a little bit of like fear mongering, like being like, well, they're gonna take over this thing, so we can't let them do that. Whereas like if that's your argument and you have like I don't know like some scientific shit to back it up, that's one thing. But I don't know. I guess I just don't necessarily love the structure of that like thought process, if that makes sense.
It's hard to go into like, well, this could happen.
Yeah,
into
exactly.
some shit
exactly.
that like
yeah.
could be viewed as like
'Cause
hateful
it's like this.
or
This life is crazy,
discriminatory.
and like fucking 5 years ago, a lot of people didn't. If it's longer, I'm sorry, but like say hypothetically 5-10 years ago, people didn't think being non-binary was going to be a thing, and now it's like a thing, and we're working it into society and trying to accommodate and be kind to people that identify that way, because you know what, fucking do whatever you want in your life. So I just think it's hard to be like, that's absolutely going to happen, especially because, like you said, like it doesn't necessarily seem like it doesn't seem like it's happening. Now, I understand like the idea of testosterone being an advantage, thus the reason that we drug test people and PEDs are a thing, and a lot of PEDs are forms of steroids that make you increase the amount of testosterone you produce to help your muscles recover faster, so you can train harder, grow bigger, grow stronger, blah 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 blah. So it is kind of hard to like what are the rules if we're gonna let trans people compete, which hypothetically I think they should be able to. I would love for them to be able to, right? But it's like what are the measures you take? Like, do you start testing their levels of testosterone to make sure they're low enough, and is that enough of a thing to make it truly equal, or is it truly that going through puberty as a biological male has given them
so much of an
and
advantage.
I don't think I know enough about human anatomy to say one way or the other on that. I would say, like, again, as of now, I think I used to be like very much so yes, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know, because like we talked about like the things like it seems like if that was absolutely the case, you would get trans athletes that are just like destroying competitions.
Right.
And it's like some of them do good, like Lia Thomas won, but like I mean lost.
But she also lost 2 other races.
Lost other
Right.
races, and
Or you can go back to like 2013. Lacia Clarendon is like a WNBA player who's transgender since 2013, and she's only been an all-star for one of those years. So like clearly, like if men did have that like significant advantage, and you know she had that fucking advantage, there's more of a possibility that even at 5'9", she would probably have been an all-star for multiple years.
Does that invalidate the woman's experience that if they have 13 players and she was the 14th player to be on that team that got cut? Does her experience have any like meaningful impact in the situation?
I mean, hypothetically, yes, because like if we're saying we need to care about the experience of the transgender person, we need to care about the experience of the other women as well.
Right.
But like that is kind of hard too, though, because it's like if another girl transferred to that school and was just better than her, she doesn't get on the team anyway. So It's like how hypothetically a transgender person is just another woman that's arriving at the school.
But is there that biological advantage that they have?
Right, exactly. Which I don't know, because I mean, like, even if you look at like I'm going to use UFC fighters because that's the sport I watch, right? You look at a lot of UFC fighters, like Anderson Silva is so dominant for a lot of years, but at some point as you age, you naturally lose, like your testosterone levels go down and you start getting slower. You're not as strong, like you don't recover as well, right? But I think that would point to the idea that if your testosterone levels become lower, you don't have that advantage anymore, even if you still have a similar body type in that sense, right? Because even though Anderson Silva, like he might look a little like flabbier per se. Sorry, Anderson, I love you.
Hey, we got the same birthday, Anderson, so I fuck with you. You look fucking great.
You're
man.
still a fucking murderer of a boxer. But like if you like he still looks the same, but he's very clearly not capable of the same skill level. So if somebody starts doing like HRT or some sort of like hormone replacement therapies, so their testosterone levels do get to that lower amount that are that of like a female, it hypothetically isn't that the same?
Right. Well, so I would refer to this video I saw of Caitlyn Jenner talking about this, how people have wanted her to getting into women's golf tournaments. And when she was talking about it, she was kind of like chuckling because she was like, I can hit a ball so much further than a woman. Like it would be unfair. And she was like, I've been taking these hormones. I've been transitioning. I've been living this life for however many years. And she was like, look at my shoulders. Like I'm built to do that. I'm built to hit. So that's why she said she doesn't compete in like women's tournaments. It's because she feels like she does have that like strength advantage. You know,
right.
even if it's diminished from when she was a man Olympic swimmer. Obviously, it's diminished, but that advantage, like, it might still be there.
I see, but I would say I would have to see Caitlyn Jenner do that, 'cause that's a bold claim from Caitlyn Jenner. Fucking step up to the plate and go drive some balls against the top lady golfers. Because I think Caitlyn Jenner seems a little full of herself there, because it's like, you're getting old and your body's not as functional as I think you think it is anyway.
And I typically tend to stop trusting people when they go into politics.
Well, and that to me is like the same thing you see when you see like fighters like Ben Askren or Tyrone Woodley that are going to box Jake Paul, and they're like, no, like, I've been doing this for years, I'm so good at this, but you don't understand. This guy is like 25 years old. He is in the prime. He is ready to fucking go. His body is tip-top shape. Fucking everything is coursing, and you're getting old. You lose that advantage when you age. When that testosterone goes down,
and it's a completely different.
Slow down.
It's a completely different sport.
Yeah,
it's like even from MMA to boxing, it's a different sport. Whereas like running to golf, completely different sports.
Well, and that's the other thing that I think is interesting is like powerlifting seems like it would be the one that would be hard, like the hardest to be like absolutely across the board. Every transgender athlete gets to compete without like doing any sort of testosterone testing, because that is a sport that is purely 100% based off of the amount of power you can generate to lift a heavy object. Which if you have a bigger body that's meant to lift heavier objects, seems like an advantage. But with more skill-based sports, it seems like that, or especially like endurance, like running or racing, that advantage swings the other way. Like if you're endurance running, it pays to be a little person. It pays to be a slender guy. So like if you're a big, bulky trans athlete that's working on transitioning, like that's not going to be an advantage there, right?
Right. Well, and so would you think that like whoever holds like the men, women, whoever holds like the mile record or the 10-mile record, would you assume that the man weighed more than the woman?
Not necessarily. Because people come and like, there's
for some reason. I might for some reason, but I'd love to hear what
I
you
would
have to
also
say.
probably venture to agree with you.
Just for a generalization.
In
but.
general, but I mean, like, I guess what is the point of assuming that? I guess.
Well, just that like a smaller body doesn't necessarily mean that like you will be the top tier thing. You know what I'm saying?
Or a better cardiovascular athlete.
Right. I would agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
And so it's just like there just seems to be this thing that's not being taken into consideration, that like women are voicing their opinions, that they feel like there's this, and especially like women like women in sports are voicing that it's like, this is tough because you know, like when you witness the difference, and that's another thing, is that they're not going to win everything because a lot of women are really good at sports. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's like, so if I had a daughter and my daughter was going to get to compete in a Division I championship for swimming, and then this guy who decided to identify as a woman, which is great, transitioned over and was 500th in men and came over and was one of the top and knocked my daughter out, would I feel like that was fair for her? And I probably would say, well, shit, maybe not, because even though his chemical levels match hers, her body has been receiving those chemicals for 22 years, and his body has only been on those levels for 6 months. Does he still have that advantage? Probably. Or does she still have that advantage? Probably. And so that it would just be tough, because when you bring like a daughter into it, it just puts that perspective on.
And with that too, it's like women have hormones that fluctuate. Like women like go on menstrual cycles. Like there's all sorts of shit that like happen to like a naturally born woman's body. Whereas when you're on HRT and you're going through testosterone, that stuff is meant to level out your levels. Like it's meant to like actually like have it be like a homeostasis type environment for your body, which is why people are on those pills and shit.
Right.
So there's that element too, where it's like your body.
Wait, hold on. Say that.
So
what pills?
So like HRT and shit, when people go on like testosterone or like same for like HRT, like when they're taking those, it's supposed to make your body be on a baseline of chemicals. Yeah. And like natural women and us, right, who aren't on like pills and shit, our levels fluctuate. And like women's levels fluctuate like fucking crazy. So it's like even then there might be an advantage there where it's like if this woman's cramping and she's on her period and shit, you know, another woman is too. I think that this is a real thing. I think this is a real thing because this other person like is taking these hormones that's literally like stabling out all of their hormones that you're supposed to have as a woman. And if you're a woman, your hormones are fluctuating up and
That's
down.
a good point. Yeah.
And like that could really fuck with
Interesting.
But,
Yeah.
But I mean, like, okay, but if we're gonna talk about like body functions, like even talking to Iris, like Iris expressed that like she has to urinate like significantly more frequently and is like cold all the time and shows like a lot of the, I don't want to say symptoms because that seems like a bad like connotation.
Just
but
a lot of the shit that
for
happens
lack
when you're
of
on
a better word,
HRT.
yeah,
Like the fat distribution and
well, and stuff that would like point to being a woman. So like I feel like it may like it's working to create a baseline, but I don't think it's as straightforward as like you start doing HRT and it's like because it's like the process of getting your body from that much testosterone and then going down and transitioning and like your body is like literally moving shit around and trying to create its own new baseline. Like that in and of itself has to be a fucking
fucking
toll.
whirlwind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fucking-
Oh, yeah.
a
Total
roller
whirlwind.
coaster in
Oh,
and
yeah.
of itself,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And also like I don't know. I guess I don't love the period argument because I've never experienced a period, and I know like a lot of ladies are very like staunch about being like, fuck you, you don't get to degrade me because of my period. So I feel like just being like, well, she could have cramps. It's like, I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a real thing. I agree. Like, I don't think like just because a woman's on her period doesn't mean she can't do something. But like, if you're on your period, I know women who also have severely bad cramps who like struggle to like do shit.
Right.
Like, when that
with,
happens.
Like, yeah, especially like if people have like endometriosis and shit like that.
What is that?
I would have to Google like what the actual. It's like you're something with the like uterine wall gets fucked up and it's supposed to be like really painful and make periods a fucking nightmare. I don't know the exact like here's
Right.
biologically what happened.
Right.
I don't have to worry about it. So I
Three
don't.
dudes talking about women's
Yeah,
bodies.
exactly.
Not
And that's
knowing
why
dick.
I'm trying to be like, I don't have a period because it's like I can't speak to that front.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's hard
No,
to
that's
be
a
like,
good point. That's a
this
good
is
point.
fucking that must you can't compete. No swimming today. You're
Yeah,
bleeding.
I
Yeah.
was just bringing it up because I'm saying it might possibly cause some
Right,
fucking
right.
issue
But
for you.
if it's like if the argument is they have hormone fluctuation, like transgender athletes probably have a crazy amount of hormone fluctuation.
Yeah.
as
But I mean,
well.
on that same level, bro, like let's take like testosterone testing, right? Because like I agree with that, where it's like maybe we need to like test everyone's testosterone's level. But like there are some women who like can have like naturally higher testosterone levels.
Right.
And like even I think it was some basketball player where it's like in college she tested too high for her testosterone levels or whatever, and she couldn't compete. And she ended up suing the state.
And that's
for
wrong.
some shit. And that's wrong.
That's wrong. I feel
Yeah.
like, you know,
But
I
it's
really
like,
do.
can you have that rule where you test transgender athletes, but then don't test
Right.
other women?
Right.
Because then that would
Then you
like
have different rules for that's othering. It feels
that's
like,
still
you know what I'm
that's still
saying?
othering,
Yeah.
and they're gonna
The idea
argue.
is you just want to like across the board be like, come on in.
You want to treat them like a normal person.
Yeah.
That's what and
Well,
that's
like a
what should
woman,
be expected.
or-
Like
right?
a
Like
woman.
that's
what,
the thing.
whatever
Right.
gender they want to be treated like.
Well, and so one aspect that needs to be looked at is like with fighting and boxing, and I brought this up earlier with Chan, is that like weight classes, and that like a heavyweight can't fight down in lower weight classes. You know what I'm saying?
anymore.
Anymore.
Now, let me-
so why,
hold
so
on,
why,
but let
but
me
why
tell
is that?
you
Why is
something,
that?
son.
Why
Let me-
is that?
I'll tell you something. Now, back in the day, I'll tell you what that is. It's because athletic commissions exist. Now, back in the day, over in Japan, we had a lovely fucking true combat system called Pride, where if somebody
Oh,
was
yeah,
laying on
yeah.
their back on the ground, you could curb stomp their head. If they're on all fours, you could soccer kick them in the face. And they would have what they called open tournaments, which means little badasses like BJ Penn weighing in at maybe 160 pounds, 155 pounds, can fight fucking light heavyweights that are like 220 or 215.
Or Hashigami, who's fucking 600 pounds and he's a
Oh
sumo
my
wrestler.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or like even like Hoist fighting fucking all those people. Gerard Gordeau fighting Taylor Latuli, and kicking him straight in the goddamn face. So the same as size being smaller doesn't across the board equate to advantage of running. I think the same would be larger size doesn't across the board equate to bigger advantage in other sports as well.
Do you think that like raw strength though? So even like the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, like, Yeah, like yes and no, because
It's like, why would you say that there's no women in the NFL?
because they're not allowed to be in the NFL.
What do you think that?
But, like,
do you
if they were-
do you
but
think
if
if
they
they
were-
were or like college, they're allowed in college.
If
think-
they're allowed
sure.
to compete.
I think
Yeah.
there would be some. I'm not saying like every woman's gonna go fucking strap on pads, but
Well,
it's like if a lady's like fucking 6'2" and massive, but like to some extent you also have to have the understanding that like I'm not gonna fight at heavyweight. I'm not Brock Lesnar. I
Mhm.
don't want to fight that guy. The fact that that guy exists fucking terrifies me. Granted, he's taking a lot of steroids.
Right. Do you have the option to go up and fight him though?
If I, as the smaller guy, wanted to, absolutely, I should be able to have
so
that choice.
the one with like you have to fight up rather than come down, right?
Right. But that is unfair because it's like Brock Lesnar like clearly has a very significant advantage
Right.
over me.
Right.
But if I am somebody who's like transitioning, if I still weigh in at the same weight class and can fight at that weight class, I might should be allowed to fight at the weight class.
Right. And if there exists that biological advantage of upper body strength that you would carry over, there would then exist that it wouldn't be like a literal weight advantage because you'd be fighting people who are your weight, but you would have that
Power.
step up over them that say Brock Lesnar would have over you. That's
Right.
the reason that
And
division
that's-
there is because of that.
But that doesn't like. I agree. You might have some amount of power advantage, but one with declining testosterone levels, I think that is going like it's not all going. You're not going to lose all of it, but you're not going to be as fast and as strong because your body just doesn't have the ability to supply your muscles to do
Right.
that.
Yep.
But even with that power advantage, I still think that is not something that is significant enough to be like you shouldn't be able to compete because like Chris Cyborg is a fucking destroyer, built like a fucking a lightweight dude, just fucking yoked and terrifying.
Yeah, she's built like Ken Shamrock.
And she was very good for a long time, but she got beat. She got knocked the fuck out by Amanda Nunes and then kind of started falling off and still does other shit in like Bellator and around and is very good, but it's like she had like that super power advantage and the upper body of a dude, like fucking bigger than most dudes I know. But it's like because she has that build, should she not be allowed to compete? Because she has the body that looks like a dude, like she has the shoulder base, the fucking all of it. But it's
Right.
like we can't be like, no, you can't compete.
Right.
And I mean, even on like real transgender athletes who are in MMA, there's like two of them that I know of. Fallon Fox is the one who like always caught some flack from fucking Joe Rogan. That racist bitch. And he shitted on Fallon Fox a lot because she was a man who transitioned to a woman and essentially was just going in there and just like when she was hitting chicks, you fucking knew. Like she was snapping their goddamn heads back and shit. But her third fight in, a girl TKO'd her. Like, because she tired herself out in the first 2 rounds. In the third round, she fucking finished her with punches on the feet and just like TKO'd the shit out of her. So I think that does prove that like just because you're a woman fighting, like specifically in this realm of like combat sports,
Right.
and we'll get back to like regular sports in a second, like just because you're a transgender woman who's fighting, it doesn't mean that you're just automatically going to win every single
True.
fight.
Absolutely.
Well-
that's a good point.
And even like I think the bigger issue might lie in some amount of like sexism in general, in that like the people think that way and think that women's fights are more boring because they haven't been around as long. Like we haven't had the top tier place to accrue the amount of talent that we have had in the male divisions. Because like for a long time, Dana even said, I'm not going to have the smaller guys, meaning like the lightweight or the bantamweight fucking straw weights and the flyweights. And then what do you know? Fucking somebody got famous enough, they put them in. And they said the same thing about women. We're not going to have women. They're boring. Fucking Ronda Rousey comes around. Boom, women are in. And now that we're like years, a generation past that, you're starting to see like women that are fucking destroyers, like Amanda Nunes, fucking Valentina Shevchenko. And it's like they have been around the whole time. They just haven't had a place to have the amount of like publicity and time and exposure. Because like Valentina has fought people that are fucking twice her size and easily tap them up.
Except for Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, but it has arguably, besides Juliana Pena, had the best performance against Amanda Nunes twice.
Yeah.
And being like 20 pounds less than her. So I guess I don't know that size advantage. Like I said, that size advantage is enough to be like, absolutely no.
So that's interesting, and I want to, with that line of thinking, do you think that at some point the WNBA, because it's so new, like
Right.
that, I totally agree with you on that, could become something more like the NBA? I think obviously because you give them another 50, 75, 100 years, what's the WNBA going to look like? You know what I'm
because
saying?
it's like always advancing. People are always trying to push. And it like,
You're bringing in the best talent all the time.
yeah,
and,
and
you're
especially the more money that people are like able to make, the more the top level of people are going to go there. And
Right,
that's why
right.
like the NBA, you see like fucking LeBron just doing the craziest shit because it's like they've had generations of being like, you can make money doing this. And so people practice their entire fucking lives. Whereas if it's like, you could make money and have a career at this, but it's like, yeah, you'll just kind of like get by. It's gonna be. It's like, well, then why would you? If you're the best at that already, why is there inclination to try to do more to get better to push the envelope if there's a cap?
Right.
Yeah, man. My thing with like fighting is just like I think that you definitely need to disclose to the woman who's fighting the transgender athlete that they're transgender.
Agree, for sure.
But I do think they should be allowed because at the end of the day, you have to sign that contract.
Now, I think
Like you have to sign in order
Yeah.
to get into that fight.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the real solution though is we take away all testing. Everybody gets to be on steroids. You want to play sports? You get juice to the fucking tits.
And you just can identify as whatever you want.
And everybody's in one division.
Yeah, it's all
And
wipe it clean. It's
fucking
all one.
straight
yeah.
across the board. No weight classes, no divisions. You want to play sports? Get good, bitch.
Yep.
LeBron hit my line.
Yep.
I got a big opportunity for you. We're looking for someone to run track, do high jump, all sorts of shit, son. You'll come out here and fuck all these women. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's like, hey guys, get your minds out of the gutter. Come on, I'm talking about him beating in competition, not beating his meat to him. You know what I mean? Come on. son.
My B.
Thank you.
I'll
I know
beat-
that's what you were thinking, David. You don't have to tell me. I don't know, man. It's just
gonna fuck him. The connotation of that is he is going to have sex with them.
no.
That's what the word means.
What it's
I just listen to
it's
what you're saying, Tim.
denotation, not connotation.
Okay, my bad. You got me.
I don't know, man. It's just like to me, it's such a hard conversation because for me, I really think it's two worlds that are colliding that know, from my perspective, very little about each other. Where it's like the athletes are viewing it from an athletic perspective and like from their perspective, and then the trans people inside are kind of viewing it from their perspective on everything.
Yep.
And I really think you need to listen to the people who are in the sport first and foremost.
Yeah, it's
Well, because that's who's being impacted, and so it's
Yeah.
like when I see the standings and they're getting their medals, and you have the three women protesting to the side when they're all stand together with Lia Thomas at the front. That makes me feel bad for Lia Thomas, but it's also like, well, should I as a man, should I listen to these women that they're trying to like?
yeah.
They're trying to say something here. They're trying to protest something.
Right.
Should I listen to that?
Well, and it's fucked to me that the left is really going to perpetuate this notion of listen to women. You need to listen to women. You need to listen to women.
I just got on
And then
board,
they're
man.
like,
I
yo,
just got here.
this person's fucking us, and they're like, they're a woman too, and you're like, but I have different beliefs on that. And they're like, shut the fuck up, you bitch. Shut the fuck up and let Lia Thomas win this.
Take your medal and shut your mouth.
Well, and so that's the thing is like speaking from experience on Facebook, the conversation about this is not open and welcome from what I've seen right now from people who are trying to make a case for Lia Thomas. If I've asked a couple questions to a couple different people, and they always say the fact that you even have to ask that shows your roots, where your roots are coming from, your transphobic roots. And it's like, if we need people to understand and be able to ask questions, we have to be able to ask those questions. If people are afraid, like if we go to church and we're afraid to ask questions, people would say that's bullshit. But then when these other beliefs and ideologies come up, it's almost like the same thing. It's like, you guys don't feel any different than like if I were sitting in church and felt like I couldn't ask a question to the priest, who's the one who's posting the Facebook post to get people to talk about this issue, but then saying, no, don't talk. You should know that. If you don't know, then don't even ask. And it's like, I just don't know if that's a productive, sustainable way to conversate these real, because just like we've been talking about this for a long ass time, and I think if we get more credible sources, scientists, biologists, people who are in this community, oh my God, it could go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And so these conversations need to be wide open to be had. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm glad we're willing to have that shit. That's because it's important.
No, I'll tell you. Here's your problem, man. You're on Facebook, bro. Listen, Facebook, nobody has ever wanted to talk civilly on Facebook.
That's
ever.
facts.
Whereas, like, if you
Good
went
ass
to,
point.
and I think it's like where you
Twitter
go,
too.
because like if you go out on the sidewalk and start asking people, "Excuse me, sir, what do you know about Lia Thomas?" They're gonna be like, "Who the fuck are you talking
Yeah.
to?" The transgender athlete swimmer that's been in the news recently. They're gonna be like, "Who the dude? I gotta go pick my kids up." But if you go to like the BSU campus, they might be like, "Oh, well, I think this," and they're more likely to have opinions. So like,
Because they're on Facebook.
Because they're,
Yeah, 'cause they're on Facebook.
talking on Facebook.
they're on Facebook,
Yeah,
bro.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I think it's just
I
kind of
love that.
hard because
Yep.
like it's like where you go. I think will kind of vary that a little bit. And in my just limited experience with social media, I've never seen anyone like productively.
That's
have a
true. I mean,
conversation
I'm part of a gardening group. You
off
think
it.
that would be like very peaceful and
Oh
good?
no.
And it's like someone will say, "Hey, should I plant my carrots like this or like this?" I can't believe you don't know which way to. You shouldn't even be on here. Or do you even call yourself a gardener? And it's just like, holy fuck! Like you can. So then when you get into more pressing issues,
Yeah.
that shit's just gonna be red hot. You know what I'm
People are
saying?
just
Yeah.
ready to jump
Ridiculous.
down your throat at any second.
You're like, what do you think about these radishes? They're like, shut up, transphobe.
Yeah, yeah, it's like,
Fuck you.
fuck.
You're like, only transphobes plant radishes. You're like, I'm so confused.
No one told me that. Yeah.
I like how they taste in my soup.
What are the fucking rules?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard, man. It's hard because and I don't want to say this, but like it really does seem like people from that side don't really want you to ask questions like that. Like, and they're trying to like null all those questions coming in, and it's like, yo, man, like if the world is changing, and you got to understand that the world is changing with this shit.
Absolutely.
With
absolutely.
you wanting to be a transgender woman, but still wanting to be like, I am fully a woman, people are gonna have fucking questions about that. People are gonna have questions if you just come out to them. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying that I don't see your experience. I absolutely see your experience if you believe that you were born in the wrong body. And I am down to justify that personally. But like if you tell me Drew Lynch has a good joke about this in his comedy special that I saw live, because I got fucking money. He has this joke where he's like, a lot of people are just like I'm not saying you can't transition. I'm just saying like you can't expect me just to be like all of a sudden like understanding this new thing, because I've known you for 22 years, and if your name is like Kyle and then you're like, hey, my name's Kira and I'm actually identifying as a woman now, like you can't expect me just to be like,
okay, Kira, like it's
cool.
like
where are we going to lunch?
Right,
Like
exactly,
where like
right,
you want to go to fucking
exactly.
Quiznos or like no,
Yep.
it's like that's a large adjustment, and you're probably going to have a lot of questions and a lot of uncomfortable conversations with people who straight up don't agree with you.
Yep.
And like that's just like if we're wanting to progress the world in that way, but that's how it's always been.
Absolutely.
People have always been like, what the fuck is this fucking internet thing? You're on fucking the internet? Yeah, you're going to go on some website called Facebook in a couple of years? I'm sure
no
and
one's
start
on
arguing
that.
with all your
Yeah,
bitches.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I like how we're all talking about the metaverse right now. Oh, you're gonna go in the metaverse.
Yeah,
What, do you want to
exactly,
join
yeah,
the Matrix?
exactly.
And fucking cut to 10 years later, everyone.
Oculus on,
Yeah, but the shit is the thing is we know that shit's real. We know that shit is coming, and there's no way to stop
we're
it.
We're taking it a little seriously,
Yeah, but we're
Yeah.
just bullshitting on it because we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that shit's very fucking scary.
Harvest their corpses.
Yeah, that's what it's all about is I'm just trying to validate, because what I'm being called upon by other people in these groups are to validate others' human experiences. And I can't wholeheartedly do that and listen to that good ass advice if I then have to say, okay, well, I'm just not going to listen to you anymore, lady, because you disagree with this narrative. It's like, well, I also need to hear that person out and validate that experience as well, and then go from there. And what you see as a white man is no one needs to validate your experience. We're just kind of going, man.
We're
Like,
the heel. We're the heel.
You
bro.
just like just go along. You know
Bro,
what I'm
not even
saying?
if you're gay anymore either. Like if you're just
Doesn't
straight up a
help out.
white dude, it does not matter your sexuality. They don't give a
Damn, man.
fuck about us, man. They they don't give a shit, dude. I'm telling you, man. Like,
Fuck.
even gay dudes nowadays, they're like, "Hey, I'm fucking gay." They're like, "No one gives a fuck,
Yeah.
faggot.
Yeah.
Fuck you." And you're like, "But I was just," they're like, "You fucking
Suck a dick.
you invalidated Lia Thomas, cocksucker."
fucking
Oh,
transphobe.
That's so funny.
Well,
yeah.
and like, yeah, it's hilarious that like Caitlyn Jenner is like a trans person, and they're like, "You transphobe."
Yeah.
It's like I see what you're doing there, but we seem like we might be a little bit stretching here. Like,
Yep.
We're
Well,
just at a level where you can call anybody that thing if they say something you don't agree with.
yeah,
It's-
and then it's just
it's a
like,
beautiful
shut 'em
example
down
of
and
a
kill 'em.
of a revolution, a full revolution.
Uh,
The sun or the earth revolves around the sun, and every year it comes back to the same spot. And if you have your pioneer, that would be like Martin Luther King being like, "Well, you're a fucking racist." It's like, well, fuck, we've gone full circle. That the one who's kind of started this shit is now the one we're against. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like if people were like, "Fuck you, Martin Luther King, you Junior, you racist piece of shit."
It's like, well, shit. His whole thing was like that. That's not what he was doing. And like Caitlyn Jenner's like, well, shit. She's been the one that we've supposed to been looking to
Right.
understand this. And now all of a sudden it's like, well,
she's
no,
a transphobe. Don't listen.
because of one differing thought. It's like that's where it gets me is the thoughts are great and blah blah blah, but it's the behavior of trying to control people when they say, I actually don't know if I agree with that. Oh well, then you're in the trash with all the transphobes, Caitlyn Jenner. It's like you were just on the TV praised as Woman of the Year, which is fine if we want to do that, but inconsistency, is
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
witnessing.
Lots of
Well, and like
inconsistency.
the ability to just turn so violently, so quickly.
That's what's
on
scary,
people
yeah.
and just eat your own is fucking terrifying. Because like at some point
yeah.
that eats you. Like if you
Mhm.
ever
Yeah,
get traction
exactly.
from that and get to the top, I like always talk to Chan about like I think a lot of people struggle with as they get famous, they start pandering to try to suit what everybody wants instead of being like, these are the people that like the authentic version of me, so I'm going to keep doing that and slowly grow that audience. They go like, I want all the audience, but then the second they fucking say something that those people don't like, because reality is those people wouldn't like that person's personality, they just fucking eat dicks. Fuck you, motherfucker.
Yep.
It's like, well, it's because you had the wrong fucking audience the whole time. You didn't grow appropriately.
Yeah.
Or we
Yep.
talk a lot about how like people get into theater because like they're bullied, and they're just like they're not like the popular kid, and now because they're kind of on the more right side of like the social norm, they're totally willing to bully other people.
Yeah,
Totally willing.
And that's
and
a
that-
revolution. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
Yep.
and that's a revolution, and it fucking breaks my heart because it's like all of us were so sad, and theater is like the thing that saved us, and now you're gonna like kick certain people out because of this reason or that reason, or like exclude them. And it's like, you guys don't see how this is like all just a giant cycle. Like
It became the
or it-
monster that you were fighting in the first
Yeah,
place. You know?
yeah.
Or not even because of this reason or that reason, but like back to what we were saying, because they're asking questions.
Yeah.
Like, because if you have to ask the wrong question, it's like you're not validating my experience. So like, I don't need to fucking fuck with you anymore. You
Right.
fucking canceled.
Canceled. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I do think that there's some amount of understanding of, like you said with the Drew Lynch joke, of people being willing to give that space. Like Iris, like I accidentally misgendered Iris while I saw her the other night. Totally called her he in a sentence and like caught it and changed it to she, but like I still misgendered her, and I felt so fucking bad about it. But it's because I've known this person as somebody else for 6 years of college together. So, and this is the first time that I've met Iris in person. And so I was like trying to rebuild those synapses and that fucking muscle memory to use the correct pronouns. But I apologized to Iris off to the side. I was like, oh, totally sorry about that. And she was like, it's okay. Like she was totally willing to just be like I get it. And like you're trying, and like you care about me enough to try, and that's what matters, I think.
Yep.
And I think that's what is
absolutely. Yep.
important to
It
recognize
is.
too, that just because from probably all three of our perspectives, it does kind of seem like people who are involved in that community like are more willing to like kick you out before they're willing to listen to you. There are members of that community and trans people who will who not debate but will have conversations with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
All three of us have had those conversations with Iris. By the way, shout out to Iris. I do miss you. I hope that we get to hang out soon. But like you talked to Iris that time, totally cool with it. I asked Iris about dead naming back in Seattle because I have a song that mentions her dead name. And like I even saw like you went back and forth with her on like Twitter a little bit talking about fucking capitalism and shit.
Yeah. Yep.
So there are people out there who are willing to conversate, and
Absolutely.
I'm definitely wanting to, if I can, get like a trans person and a lady athlete on
Mhm,
here.
mhm.
I really would have loved if Jenna was here. I know that she had shit to do,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just to get the perspective of someone who played, like, and who is
It's
a lady,
essential. Yeah, it's essential.
it's essential
Yep.
because you
Yeah.
need to hear out the people who are involved in the situation.
Yep.
Yeah, because if there's anybody that should be talking, it's those people. Because I'm not the Lorax. I don't speak for the trees
Right,
or the queens or the gays or the straights or anybody.
Yep,
I
exactly.
speak for me, and
Yep.
that's all I can speak for.
Exactly.
I can talk a little bit more about like fucking theater because it's what my degree is in. Like I have training in that versus like basketball and trans athletes, swimming. I don't fucking know. I'm talking out of my ass.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you guys think you have any ideas on what should be done about like trans athletes? Like, do you have any opinions?
No fucking idea.
I think the most validating thing. This is just like when women didn't have sports leagues. What did they do? They formed their own sports leagues, and now the question is, can that happen right this second? Probably not. The numbers probably aren't there. But I think that it's not othering. It's very much validating. It's like, well, yeah, you I almost said you guys, you ladies deserve your own league. Like, how is that not validating that you could be, if you identify and are a trans woman? But then that's also the thing. What is a woman? That's what it really comes down to.
Well, but is that not also kind of the same basis of like the separate but equal that everyone called racist back in like the 60s?
Is what?
Of
Like
like,
making a trans
if you're
league
like you can't play with us, but you can go over there and have your own
Right.
your own
With each
league,
other.
Right.
because that's
Well, and
like,
so
well,
that-
that's like having like the Negro leagues. Like
Right.
that was a big.
That's a good
fucking
point.
issue,
That's a good
right?
point. Do you believe that that's the same thing with like women?
I see, and that's where I'm like, I don't fucking know enough,
Because that's
right?
because that's the thing is like I think we could join leagues. I think a woman has played in the NBA, and the Mavericks were thinking about drafting Brittany Griner, but
Really?
yeah,
That's fucking crazy.
Mark Cuban
dude.
talked about that shit, but that it was more of like a publicity shit because it was like, oh, once she's actually put in like the game, she's not very good.
Right.
She would be way better
But she's
off.
a woman who could dunk, so like let's put her in
Right,
there.
exactly.
Right.
But the thing is, should she? It would just completely take women out of sports in terms of like, if women were allowed to play in the NFL, how many linebackers would be women?
Right,
You
but
know
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
like, but yeah, and like I agree, but it's like I don't know. To a certain extent, it's like I'm not saying you shouldn't have. Like, I don't think there is a female NBA league that's actual legit, because I don't think that the lingerie football league that used to exist is legit. You remember that shit?
Yeah,
Are
I
you saying
totally
there isn't
do.
a WNBA?
No. Football,
The-
NFL.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
WNFL.
Yeah, I remember the lingerie football league though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
With all
but
the Playboy secret.
no,
fucking
but what I
models.
mean is like Like-
that's a woman validation right there, baby.
like seemingly football in general is just not a sport that women really want to play.
Mhm.
Now that could be very sexist of me assuming, because maybe there's a bunch that want that, and it's just like for some fucked up political reason that a league hasn't been created. But it's like we have the WNBA and we have other leagues for women, so maybe football specifically isn't a great example, because in general, yeah, because of testosterone and shit, dudes are bigger.
Mhm.
So it's like there may now, if there was a woman that was like, look at me, I'm the fucking cat's jammies, I'm huge, I want to play in the NFL, we should let her play.
I agree. I
Fucking
agree.
let her play.
I agree. 100%.
But yeah, I don't know. That's
But that division of, would you, if so, say you go back when women didn't have a league, would you not advocate them to create their own league, or would you say we'll just join the men?
well, if they were like, we want to join the men, let them join. Why not?
Yeah,
because
true.
because if your belief is truly that men have a superior advantage, it shouldn't matter to you because you're going to stomp them out anyway, right? So why not just let them?
Right. So
Let 'em
then,
play.
so then you're playing from down up rather than men coming down into the women's league
Yeah,
and changing the game that way. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
yeah. Like
Because
you,
do you think like LeBron should be able to play in the WNBA?
he transitions, man. I think we gotta let him play, bro. Like,
I think
Like
yeah,
he
like
starts doing
logically we would have to.
HRT. First of all, I want to see how LeBron's fucking physical shape is gonna change if he starts taking like HRT. Like,
I do want to see LeBron with tits.
yeah, and
I
like,
do want to see titted
like
out
it
LeBron.
would be it would be very interesting to see like
Yes,
the
it would.
difference in like 40-yard dash times and like vertical, and like have a true test to see like how much change is there actually there, because you even talked about Lia Thomas's swim times, and there wasn't like a lot of them. There was
There was some drop off near like with the shorter races, like the 500,
Right.
the 200. But
Right.
it
So
wasn't-
there was like some. It's like that advantage did to some extent like dissipate with doing HRT.
Mhm.
So it's like maybe that is to some extent like a solution or like the best one we have now to try to like equal it out if you're worried about that advantage.
Well, and that in regards to that too, like I think it's crazy because Lia Thomas did take off 2 years from swimming to go through transition in order for her to do this and feel like she wasn't gonna get the pushback that she's obviously gotten.
She waited too long, probably.
Or not long enough, man. Give a fucking couple of years.
That's
You
true,
never
that's
know
true,
what the
that's
fuck's
true.
gonna
Yeah.
happen. But I with that, like I don't know how much of that is just because she wasn't swimming competitively that she
Right.
lost that shit.
Right.
A lot of it, I'm gonna venture to say that a good chunk of it is also because of her going through HRT and the hormones and the reproduction and the loss of muscle mass and bone density, shit like that. But I just think that overall, I just don't know like what I think about a trans league, like even down the road. I think we just have to see. Like that's my whole
Well, so
thing.
who do we ask in this? Do we listen? Do we ask women who are in sports if they would like to do this?
Well, I think the issue is like you can ask all the people and everybody's gonna have
Different shit to say.
different opinions,
Mhm.
and it's like somebody has to make the decision. And thank fucking God I'm not that guy.
Yeah, facts.
And
yeah.
I don't think I should ever be that
Yep.
guy. But like, that's the hard thing. Is it's like who gets to decide? Who gets to be the judge that goes either yes or no, you are or aren't allowed based off of these stipulations.
Well, and that also comes down to if the WNBA, as a private entity of the NBA, I think, accepts that, then what are you going to do about it?
Mhm.
They can do that. And that gets into like the freedom to express yourself and the freedom to like have a private business and have stipulations that you have for that. It's like, well, shit, then you can do that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like if you don't agree with masks, but you go into a business that says you have to have a mask on, they can ask you to leave because they can have stipulations and rules that are outside of you that you don't like. You know
And
what I'm
if they're
saying?
privately owned, you don't give a you don't have
But-
one fucking say.
Exactly.
But that's also could be said for like Facebook and YouTube and all that shit. Then with deplatforming people, they should be able to do that because they're a private entity.
That's true. And I think that the gray area comes that they try to front like they're a public entity, but then they
Right.
also behave as if they're
Right, like as
'cause they
soon
are
as you
literally
try to be
private.
like, "Hey, wait," they're like, "No,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
you
Yeah.
can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't
Exactly.
tell me what to do.
That's not your line.
You're not my real dad."
I just want to go back to what I was saying real quick.
Yeah.
I just think it's too soon to say what we need to do. Like, obviously, to me, I think that transgender athletes have been around for a while. With it
Mhm.
getting more popular, being trans and just being okay to do that as a kid. Because, like, my nephew said to me the other day, he was like, yeah, there's a lot of trans kids at my school. And I was like, man, like, being from the same school district from you and shit, like, I would have never said that growing up. And so you got to think, like, how many of these kids, like, are legitimately trans or how many of them have just kind of been, like, in some sort of, like, deep internet culture that these young kids are involved with that just makes them think that they are this way because of this or that or because they like pink or all this bullshit. Like, kids think all sorts of crazy shit, man. When I was 9, I went on a business trip with my dad to, like, this fucking, like, storage unit place. And my dad was like, hey, man, you know, this guy, he's kind of weird. I don't know what the fuck we were doing there, but he was like, this guy is kind of weird. I just want to let you know. And I was like, all right, Dad, if he gets weird, you just call me Cecil. And my dad was like, what? And I was like, yeah, Dad, like, that'll be our cue. Like, if it gets really weird, like,
Okay, Cecil.
and you're gonna like fuck him up. Like, are you gonna hit him with a flashlight?
no, I'm
Like-
gonna get the fuck out. Like,
I
like-
thought you were saying like he's gonna be like Cecil, and you're just like,
like that little kid on coke who was like, yeah, like he'd throw balls at my head, and I just climb on his back and just choke
dick
him out.
punching
Shit. But you know, like kids like are saying all sorts of crazy shit. So it's like, I don't know. I think we just need to give it time to see how many of these kids pan out to like following through with this change of gender, how many of them become in these sports and shit like that. And I just think leagues need to set it up so that they can allow trans athletes to play for now. Figure out some sort of, like you're saying, I'm glad it's not me, some sort of way to allow them to compete
So what if the swimming league said we will accept and understand and announce Lia Thomas as a woman, but she has to compete in the men's league? But when she's announced, every time we refer to her, we will validate her womanly experience, but we will also try to validate.
I don't think
the
you
people
can
on
do
the podium.
that, though, because then you're not then you don't believe she's a woman. Like, if you're not going to let her compete in the women's league, you don't believe she's a woman. You can call her a woman all you want, but if you don't let her do the one thing she wants to do as a woman, then fuck you. You're not letting her be a woman, right?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And there are like different racers from that race who have claimed different things. Like the girl who got second place did say that she was completely fine with lacing Lia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's some PR shit that her school told her to say in order to like keep face, because it does seem like to me there are way more female athletes who are not okay with this shit. Like that's what it seems like for me. But I have heard arguments from both sides. But I have heard one more. But again, going back to what I was saying, just because I want to finish this point. Just after these kids grow up, like I want to see if female transgender women athletes are really going to be dominating women's sports. And if they are, from there, we may need to have a further conversation about what do we need to do now.
Right. But we need time to pass because it's still
It's
fresh.
young in the game, man. It's young in the game with it being like mainstream. And that's the thing. And I don't want to invalidate anybody's experience. Not the women athletes, not the trans women, but I just think we need to have conversations, and we need to find some sort of fucking neutral ground on all this shit so that everyone can. Because I feel bad if we're gonna be like, you want to be this thing, but because you're on this thing and you want to identify this, you can't play this sport. Like, or you have to like compete against these people who you are now taking straight. Like, if we're gonna say that they have an advantage when they're taking HRT, they clearly have a disadvantage when taking HRT against other men.
Well, but that's also like self-inflicted. That's like if you truly believe in that, then like swimming isn't what's important now. It's transitioning your body through that. And if that's going to harm your standings, then that's something you're going to have to consider. But to say, well, then I'll just jump over to this league, which I'll take a break for 2 years, take chemicals that slow me down and still win in this league. Women are just coming from that perspective.
Right.
You know?
And I think that like it's along that same perspective of like, if she has such a disadvantage, there's a good shot that she's not even gonna get on the team. Right, which is going back to like what we were talking about earlier, where like if she is on the female women's team, that's a spot for a cis-born woman to not be on that team.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Scholarship, right.
Yeah, and the same thing for her if she was on the fucking
But-
men's team.
But hypothetically, that shouldn't matter as much because there shouldn't be a difference between cis-born women and trans women. Like, right? Like, isn't that the ideal? If you're trans, is that
Right. That's
you're viewed
well.
the
So
same?
that's the thing is like some women are saying that because it just comes down to what you define what a woman is,
right?
and if it's on a spectrum. Because again, if it doesn't mean anything, because it can mean anything, then that people have to believe that. So if someone picks something that they don't agree, they have to believe that because it's like, well, it can mean anything. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I don't know.
How good was Lia Thomas swimming in the men's league?
People want to say that she was elite, but she like was like 11th place. Like 1 year she went like 11th, 15th, and 38th. And this year she won, and then she took like 6th and 8th. So I mean, I guess that is a pretty like low key like sizable advantage. But people want to say that she was an elite swimmer before. I wouldn't really say that's good, and it's good for like to be across like all of NCAA. Be like, I'm the 11th best swimmer. You're pretty fucking good, but you're not like 1, 2, or 3.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And that's kind of like a different level. I feel like when you're getting up there,
Right. And I don't know. I guess I just like I feel like it would be a little different if like she came over and just like across the board just like starched everything. But it's like clearly there still is competition that exists for her there. So it's like she doesn't have so much of a competitive edge that she is just like automatically the winner.
Right,
So
but-
she still has to
and if she
participate
would
in
have
the
competed,
competition.
if she would have competed and ran her and raced her time that she did this year across the last 9 years, she wouldn't have won the last 6. Like 6 of the last 9 years, she wouldn't have won.
Right.
Damn.
Right. So it's like, yeah.
It's because of this year. If the girl who was in second, like swam what she swam in the meet before that in the semifinals, she would have beat her.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's like maybe those people somebody just had a bad day.
Like a bad swim.
yeah.
But that's the thing is like there are women who took 9th, 10th, 11th who are writing letters trying to explain their perspective, how they feel like they're the ones that are being impacted by this and separated by this. And so that's the thing is to validate someone, should we invalidate someone else? And when this is happening, other people are being invalidated while this is happening. And so I don't know who
to be like,
Who
I
to-
choose your side.
right, who to validate. Everyone's telling me one side or the other.
Because you're in a lose-lose situation. In that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If you don't let her to do it, you're not validating her thing as a woman.
Yep.
If you let her do it, you're taking out someone who's worked their whole fucking life to get to these championships, and
Yep.
because this dude who wanted to be a chick, like, went through this shit and did this now I can't fucking do it.
Who had a
Now-
significant jump from a lower place to a higher place and bumped me out. And
Mhm.
regardless if it's first or second, even if it's fifth, sixth, seventh, that's still, there are people who are under that who will be
Right,
removed.
but I mean, like, if you're 5th and you get bumped to 6th, how much does that actually matter? Because like you lost. You're not
It could-
first,
it could-
second, or third.
It could kick you off the podium, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people like getting on the podium.
could lose your scholarship. I mean, it could. It's really big stuff. You know what I'm saying? It really is.
okay.
Or
Yeah,
even
yeah,
if you're
yeah.
not on the team, like if you're on her team, and then Leah's like, "Yo, I'm gonna do this," and they're like, "Well, we have to." She's 6'4", like we
Yeah,
have to
like,
have her, and then
take
they're like,
her in.
"Well,
Fuck
sorry,
yeah."
Katie, we fucking
5'4"
you know.
Katie, like
But
yeah.
I guess
big
like
bitch over here."
that like how that's not that different than if like some cis-born lady just like transferred over and was just huge and was just like, yeah, I'm a great swimmer from fucking some fucking Florida State, so now I'm here and sorry, you don't get you're gonna write a letter and be like, well, this lady transferred, how dare she fucking come take my fucking space, how dare she be better at my sport than me. And like, and I
But-
get it. It's a little more complex than that with all the hormones.
Because if that
and
woman
shit,
was
but-
transferring from one school, taking 10th, 11th, 38th, and then transfers to another school and is all of a sudden taking first, second, and or first, sixth, and eighth, that would be like, well, shit. That you might want to look into that because how is that jump happening? You probably wouldn't see that jump. You know what I'm saying? So if she, like, it's just that whole concept of like, it's making the competition stiffer for people who are already like in this system and have played by the rules, and then it's like, well, it feels like someone's kind of like, because that's the thing is like, it goes divisive when someone feels like they're being mistreated out of and robbed of a spot, but and so it looks like Lia Thomas is stealing a spot, but Lia Thomas isn't doing that shit. It's accidentally the consequences of what's happening in the situation. But like Lia Thomas is not like some evil person who needs to not be doing what they're doing. They're going to do what they're allowed to do. She is going to do what she's allowed to do. And if that means compete with women, if she's allowed to, then that's what's going to happen. If women speak up, and if they do, then that's great. They should. If there's a voice that needs to be heard, it should be heard. But again, it just always goes to like, well, then just ban her from everything and take her off television and never talk about her again. It's like, no. That's but we
And she's not a woman. She's not a woman. They're like, we're not saying
right.
that.
No, it's just we need to hear everyone's perspective out. And I like that. I like where you're coming from because you're really, really empathizing with that side that I need to hear. You know what I'm saying? Because like I'm not getting that a lot. I'm not getting a lot of good feedback because I know that just like bringing up all the arguments you brought up earlier when we were shooting hoops. It's just like, oh, there's a whole ass discussion to be had here that needs to be had because I need to open up to what the fuck is going on. You know what I'm saying? So it's beautiful.
Because I totally agree, man. If Lia Thomas would have went in there and just kicked everybody's fucking ass, I'd be like, guys, we need to have a fucking conversation about this maybe. But like, still, there's all that fluctuation. There's just a lot of variability and
Well, and and I mean, like, to some extent, there's always going to be somebody that's bigger and stronger than you in the competition.
That's a good point. Yep.
And like, you're going to have to find a way to fight that adversity and overcome that and become greater than that. And if it's that level of competition that pushes you to break times that are better than you've ever broken, even if that person is always one step ahead of you, you are better in yourself for that. So like isn't to some extent that what, I don't know, like use it as fire a little bit. But again, I'm also not at all a fucking professional athlete or an NCAA. I've never even been close to that level. So speaking out of my ass.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, I think that's it. Fucking, we've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes now.
Nice.
So
That's pretty good.
Okay, sorry. One last question though.
Yeah.
Like, I guess to some certain extent, isn't it also kind of our job, like as just a bunch of white dudes, to just kind of shut the fuck up? Like, because that's what, like, everybody seems like they want people to like talk about like all these issues, but it's like they only want the people that are in those issues to talk about them. So it's like, what, like, we're able to have these conversations with each other, but like we shouldn't be fucking at Congress like, let Lia Thomas swim, or don't let Lia Thomas swim. But it seems like those people would be okay with us being there if we were on their side.
Just depending on what everything.
But
right,
if it's
exactly.
like if we're like, I don't know, or like I don't necessarily agree with you, it's like, okay, then sit down and shut the fuck up, Whitey.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, okay, like I guess I'm very glad I don't have to
Well,
participate
because
in this.
that's my experience. Is like, well, you should call out the injustices of the world, and it's like, well, fuck, okay, because your white privilege allows you to just sit back and not do anything. It's like, okay, well, let's talk about this shit. Well, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Shut the fuck up. And it's like, again, it's just like that willingness to just completely contradict what you just told me is like, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what you want me to do. So
Yeah, like we're supposed to listen but not have any sort of like opinion or questions. Like just sit there and just be like, yeah, whip me some more. And
Yes,
you know what?
Daddy, tell me more.
Here's the thing, man. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should just sit there and just not have an
Whip me,
opinion and
baby.
just listen. But you know, we have a podcast called Fehr The Burn where we're supposed to sit down and talk about
Christ's
things.
sake, culture. Come on.
No, we're talking about the corruption, and if there is corruption, if there's culture, man. So that's what it is. This has been episode 30. Cougar, you got anything to say to these people before we leave?
Just keep going, keep conversating. What we showed right here is like we are coming from very different places, and we just had a very civil conversation over a very heated topic, and I hope that can spread a little love to show people that it's like we can do this. There's people who believe in this shit who like we can go forward as a people.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
and
saying?
I don't feel like we are any less of any amount of friends.
No, I don't think
because
any
of it.
differently of you. Exactly. Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
oh, okay, cool.
And that's a beautiful thing to have, is to be able to express and be vulnerable. Because again, that's what a lot of groups say is like, trust yourself, what you believe. You should stand up in a room and say what you believe. But then when the group starts really running, it's like, wow, just listen to what we say. And if you stand up, it's a revolution. You become the monster that you were just fighting, that you felt like you couldn't stand up in a room and speak your truth. But now people in your rooms can't stand up and speak their truth. You don't want that. And I want that in churches. I want that in LGBTQ plus places. I want it everywhere. You know what I'm saying? I want it here. So that's just, I love you all. Keep on going.
Yeah, man. Let those fucking trans athletes compete, bitch. Yo. Bye, bitches.
Will you open my emotions? Hold on my heart like it's never been broken. Baby, that's all I really need. I've been floating off the deep end. Will I catch a wave or just drown in your ocean? Baby, tell me what you're gonna do with me. I've been looking for a reason to stay on my own. Yeah. I've been telling myself that I'm better alone. Yeah. Getting calls from my friends who really know me. They're all saying that I'm scared of being lonely. It's probably why I crack a smile when you text my phone.